Good morning, everybody.
Shocking.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all fantastic, safe and well. Welcome to the always on time, the always ready to go at a moment's notice Three's a Crowd podcast, the only Northeast football podcast where we bring Sunderland, Middlesbrough and Newcastle together for a bit of banter, a bit of laugh and a bit of people rocking up on time. And it is always Steve and I that are prompt, ladies and gentlemen. It's always Steve and I that are here. And it's always the one Mackem that's letting us down. I mean, Ted, what's going on?
I'm going to post the screenshot. I don't care. I've got nothing to lose. I'm a nobody. Honestly, I've got no social media following. I'll just destroy you, mate. It's no problem.
Welcome on in, everybody. Hope you're fantastic, safe and well. It's so good to see you for another Three's a Crowd. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to look backwards and look forwards. Well, it's been a big couple of weeks, big week, for all three Northeast clubs, but I cannot do it without the two men to my left and right. It's a good morning to you, Ted. Hope you're well. No?
Well, I've had a lovely breakfast. I had a traditional dippy egg breakfast. Dippy egg is the greatest breakfast known to mankind. That's a fact. But other than that, I had my new neighbours upstairs arrive drunk as skunks at about 1 o'clock in the morning and make a load of noise. Then my cats decide to be a bunch of prats, and then we've had a mobile disco downstairs at about 9:30 this morning. And somebody moving into a new apartment. Yeah, it's
all happening for you, isn't it?
Look at this. Look at the state of this. Look at that. Like
Steve,
John Wick bags.
We can't see Steve, but we trust that Steve, the best looking one of our trio, is doing better than you, Teddy boy. Morning, Steve.
Good morning. Yes, good morning. All good in the black and white side of this podcast, and been a very good week. I'm just hoping that we can continue in the same vein, because this week's another big week for Newcastle United.
It is a massive week. We've got to look backwards, as we always do here on Three's a Crowd. Let's do so by looking at the results that happened just over the last weekend. The first one we'll talk about, obviously, Teddy boy, is the Fulham result. It was a Sunday game that we were talking about last time we were on this podcast. Sunderland, obviously, at home to Fulham. We were all optimistic. I believe one of us went for a draw, but we did both. We had two predictions on the win as well. We saw Xhaka returning on the 71st minute, and that was kind of when Sunderland decided to start rocking up and start playing football. But it was a little bit too late by that stage. Obviously, Fulham coming out the victors 3-1, mate. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a slide now for Sunderland in the Premier League. It's obviously, you've had Arsenal and Liverpool in those two, but now you've obviously lost the third to Fulham. It's going to need a big result against Bournemouth.
Yeah, it's not coming at the right time, mate, because the injury problems that we've got as a result of that Fulham game are pretty serious. We'll talk about the Fulham game first, then we'll cover the injuries, I guess. It was a gamble from Regis to not start Xhaka. I have my own theories that maybe it was an opportunity for the rest of the squad to kind of prove that we're not a one-man team. Turns out we are. To be fair, we are. There's no way to dress it up. We were awful for the first 70 minutes of that game. We can go on continually blaming refereeing decisions left, right, and centre. Yeah, it was another horrendous performance from another referee, a so-called top referee. But that shouldn't excuse what was essentially a lacklustre performance all round. Yeah, indeed, we got back into it. The penalty was well warranted. The penalty that was awarded against us, I personally had no complaints. Players know now that there's cameras everywhere, and a pull like that is going to get, it's going to get detected, and it's going to go to a replay and VAR pick it up, and that's exactly what happened. Unless it's Liverpool coming to the stadium light, then it gets totally ignored. But yeah, we can't complain about the result. We dragged back into it. Xhaka came on. We won. We won the penalty. Got looking like you're going to get back in the game, but then of course, when you're chasing the game like that, you're always open to a counter attack. That's exactly what happened, and we are where we are. The worst part of that is the fact that we end up with 3 quite serious injuries off the back of it. Brobby is going to be out for around about 2 to 3 weeks. Mukiele out for the same amount of time. So both of them really, it's kind of touch and go whether they get back for the derby, which they'll be required for. Romain Mundle, we'll come back to him as well, because obviously that was quite a big ordeal that happened after the game as well. Romain Mundle also suffered an injury as a result of that game. And Talbi as well, who obviously just making his home debut, looked very promising on the wing. He's ended up with an injury. It looks like he's going to need surgery as well. So that's, when it rains, it pours, I guess. It's one of them things. But having said that, we've got players in the squad who are now going to get an opportunity. We've got 2 strikers there in Isidore and Mayenda who now need to step up. What it might do, as well as I think one of the lads on our page actually raised the point of we might actually have to start and play proper football again, because for me, we've been a little bit lazy in knocking it into Brobby and using him as a battering ram. Now we have to go back to how we were playing at the beginning of the season, which was actually very successful against the likes of West Ham and Brentford at home. So we might just see a bit of a change in fortunes, but the last place you want to go and try and do that and turn your form around is away at Bournemouth, because they're on a good run. They're a very, very well organised side. We were lucky to beat them. We were 2-0 down and won 3-2 at the Stadium of Light earlier on in the season. I fear for this one. I don't think it's the place to go and turn it around, especially with the squad, the squad depleted as it is. Just one thing that I wanted to mention, you lads know, I was quite. I think everybody was quite upset about what happened with Romain Mundle, and it's not the first time it's happened across all 3 Northeast teams this season, where there's been abuse levelled at players on social media. As it's transpired later on, not that this makes it any more or less acceptable, by the way, but it's later transpired that those comments have actually come from an overseas betting account, the racist comments that were levelled at Romain Mundle. So I hope they lost an absolute fortune, to be honest, you absolute scumbags. But it's transpired it's not Sunderland fans that are the guilty party. It doesn't make it any better. I think Jacob Murphy also suffered some abuse earlier on in the season as well, and it's just got to stop. You lads have heard me say it before. Unfortunately, we now live in a society where they've forgotten what it's like to get a smack in the mouth for being cheeky. And unfortunately, we've just got to stick together, because social media is full of good people out there who will club together, report it, and stamp it out, because it is just scumbag behaviour.
It really is, Ted, and I obviously put it out on social media as well, how disgusting it is, and how hard is it just to be a normal, nice human being, especially when it comes to social media. People seem to think that they can just say whatever they want and get away with it, and it's disgusting. Ted, I just wanted to quickly talk to you before we move on to Newcastle results as well. We saw last season, especially in the Championship, mate, that that end of season sort of slot for Sunderland. You lost a few games in a row at the end of last season as well. Now, obviously, 12 months forward, you're in the Premier League. It's a completely different squad. But there seems to be a trend there of Sunderland kind of running out of gas. Are you seeing similarities between the end of last season and right now? I mean, do you feel like this team's running out of gas? I know the injuries are mounting up. I know you've obviously just gotten Xhaka back and stuff like that. But there was a similar trend in what we saw to the end of last season as well.
Yeah, I mean. There's only so much, we brought 14 or 15 players in the end in the transfer window, but many of them we're still talking young lads there, and you are going to pick up injuries as well. So the first season back in the Premier League is always going to be difficult, because it's so physically demanding. The speed of the game is so intense. It's a totally different kind of game to what the Championship is, where the Championship is very physical in another sense, in the fact that it's a bit of a battle, really. It's elbows in. It's very tough and scrappy at times, I guess. The Premier League has taken some getting used to for some of the players. A lot of the players we've brought in have never played at this level, never played in England, let alone that. So it's justifiable. It's the way I put it. It's not ideal. I'm sitting here on the back of 3 defeats in a row now. It's not comfortable in the league. That is, it's not comfortable. No, it's.
No.
I think we're still safe from any sort of relegation fear. Tottenham are doing their level best to make sure we're all right. So long may it continue. But yeah, listen, it's kind of there is parallels for different reasons, because last season obviously we had a very, very young squad. I think the average age was like 23 in the squad, so there were young lads who naturally ran out of steam. It's a different scenario where it's just people who are not used to playing in England in the Premier League this time around, mate.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting to see, and we hope for Sunderland's sake that you can obviously find a point against Bournemouth, or if not 3. But we did see the fans already setting off at early hours this morning to make the long trip, and we wish all of those Northeast fans a big and safe journey, because it is a
bit
long
of great
one
scheduling from the Premier League.
Yeah, not wrong, that one. There's the club obviously showing off the bus that's leaving for the game tomorrow early this morning. Can you believe it? On to Newcastle United. They've had a big week. Obviously, Steve, mate, it was a big result against Qarabag. Now, Qarabag did make it a little bit interesting in the actual result, making it 3-2. But overall, the aggregate was 9-3, never really worrying Newcastle United. It was a massive night, I think, for Newcastle United to get into the last 16. It does get a bit sketchy now. Obviously, you will be facing either Barcelona or Chelsea in the last 6.
Barcelona. The draw was yesterday.
Barcelona. There you go. So Barcelona.
I've already booked up.
It's already Barcelona. I mean, when you're in the last 16 of the Champions League, you're going to be facing all of the big clubs. Barcelona, we've already seen them at St. James's Park once this season. It's another trip, obviously, for Barcelona fans. How do you see this one playing out? And obviously, what is it like about, how proud of you at the club of getting into last season? I mean, Eddie Howe's taken Newcastle United, forget the league, forget everything, to take a Newcastle United Northeast football team into the last 16 of the Champions League. It's some effort.
I mean, it's been a good week. I mean, last week's show, we were looking ahead to Newcastle against Man City. I fancied Newcastle to get something out of that. I took them to take a 2-2 draw down there. We should have got one. Robbed, by poor officials. And it's been a story of our season this season, but, poor refereeing decisions, etc. But I thought Newcastle did very well last week against Manchester City. Lost by 1 goal, and if we had to win a game, if it was that one or the cup game against Man City next week, I would have taken the cup game, the FA Cup game, all day long. Man City won't be looking forward to coming up next weekend, that's for certain. The Qarabag game was over in the first leg, and what we had to hope was that essentially that Eddie was going to be able to rotate the players and give the players that needed a rest, but also give an opportunity to players who are on the fringes or people who haven't had much game time. So when the team sheet came out against Qarabag, it was interesting to say the least. I mean, first of all, Alex Murphy has been in and around the squad for about 2 years now. People call him a youngster. Well, he's actually older than some of the first team players, but he came in and did a fantastic job. To make his actual debut in Qarabag, his Champions League debut in the first leg was wonderful. But then to see him come on and do so well and play 90 minutes at full back and centre half was great. So, there's a player there that we can rely on. We know he can do a job. And, he will only benefit from playing in that game. Shahar didn't come on until the dying embers of the game, but again, didn't look out of place. So, first of all, that was great to see. Walter Morta, Eddie is trying him out in this midfield role. By his own admission, Eddie said that wasn't his best game in that position. And having listened to Eddie at his press conference yesterday, he was saying that, it's due to the lack of training time that Newcastle have had, because they've got so many fixtures, they've got so many games, they haven't had a chance to train in between games. And I think what he said yesterday, I think we would all agree with. He needs to improve his physicality. The Premier League is a very physical league, and he's not capable of playing, against those kind of physical players yet. It's something which he'll be able to pick up and learn and hopefully improve during the summer when Eddie has a full, has a summer with him once the World Cup finishes. So yeah, but we went into a 2-goal lead, 6-1 up on aggregate, two-goal lead against Karabag, and that was it. I think psychologically the players then knew that the job was done. I mean, Tonali scored in the 4th minute, Joe Linton scored in the 6th minute. We're all sitting there thinking it's going to be a 6 or 7-0 win, and then the lights went out. Really, Newcastle, try and motivate yourself when you're 8-1 up. It's so difficult, and there was a lot of changes. There was a lot of changes in the game to both sides, and credit to Karabag. I said this before we played them in the first game. They're no mugs. They're no, that they've got huge Champions League experience. They've taken some scalps. They've got good results against British teams this year. So Karabag they weren't making their Champions League debut. They weren't the whipping boys. And if you let your standards drop against anybody in the Champions League, you're going to come a cropper. So, Newcastle did well. I mean, Karabag scored their first goal, but we went straight back up the other end, and Botman scored with a header, and parity was resumed. We ended up with an interesting game, an exciting game, and it was probably it was harder than it should have been. We lost the second half, but it was just
cost
one of
me
those.
30 quid.
Cost you 30 quid. It was one of those games which. We got 5 goals in a Champions League game, and listen, that's it. We're through to the last 16. It's an immensely proud moment as a Newcastle, fan to have your team going into the last 16 draw. And we knew we would be playing Chelsea or Barcelona. The new format's great. For Newcastle, really, Barcelona doesn't hold any fear. In fact, nobody holds any fear. We've already played the best team in Champions League, PSG, and we put in another good performance against them. We're PSG's bogey side in this competition, and you can dare to dream as a Newcastle fan, because this isn't a one-leg game; it's 2 legs. And yeah, we've got to play at home first, but we play Barcelona away. We just need to make sure we do the job properly at St James's Park, get a decent lead, and then go and fight for our lives in the new camp. But it's not going to be 100,000 capacity at the new camp. It's reduced capacity. It's at 50,000 at the moment while they build their extension on the ground. So it's not going to be as intimidating. It's going to be like playing at St James's Park. It's going to be like playing at Anfield. It's going to be like playing at Arsenal. Newcastle are used to this, and they're used to European travels. So it's a great draw. I think. A lot of people said if we get Chelsea, we've got a good chance of getting through. Well, I was the polar opposite. I wanted Barcelona. We've already booked up, me and the lads. We've got our apartment booked. We've got got our flights booked, and we're looking forward to it. But it holds no fear, and neither does the draw, because if Newcastle do get through, that I still think our side of the draw is an easier side of the draw than the other side of the draw. So I think Newcastle's got a chance. When you look at the teams that have got to the Champions League final over the last few years, Spurs got to the Champions League final, and it was an average Spurs side under Pochettino. You've just got to turn up and do your best. And the pressure's been off for Newcastle in the Champions League. It hasn't been like the Premier League. There hasn't been the scrutiny. There hasn't been the criticism. And players have let the shackles off in the Champions League and almost treated it like a free hit. And that served them well so far. So yeah, immensely proud of the team. Delighted that we got Barcelona. And looking forward now to hopefully getting 6 points in the bag in the Premier League, because Newcastle, let's remember, are still in the FA Cup, are still got a chance of a European spot in the Premier League, and have got an opportunity to make this probably a better season than last season, if that is possible. But well done to Eddie Howe and the lads, and especially bouncing back from the criticism that they've had from lots of people, on social media. On podcasts, journalists, and we've always been very careful on NUFC matters not to criticise. What we've said is we've always been like a critical friend to Eddie, and there's nothing wrong with saying that you think that he's got things wrong, but at the same time, let's not go overboard when with criticism. And I have said on here as well on our podcast that Eddie's job is on the line. It was on the line 6 or 7 weeks ago. Things weren't going well. And you were saying if this happens and that happens, we could be in a really big, decision come the summer. But Eddie and the team seem to respond to this time and time again. They've done it over the last 4 years. When their backs are against the wall, they come out fighting. They have this they have this insular kind of mentality where they just go, right, lads, let's get our crap sorted out. Let's get our shit together here. Let's get out there and let's do the job. And Brentford was the turning point. Not the first game, the second game. There was a few home truths exchanged in the dressing room, and you know what? Happy days. So yeah, good, a good feeling on Tyneside, and the 2-1 defeat at Man City didn't change that. That was the problem. If we'd losing that game, and then going into the Carabao game and losing that leg, despite getting through, there would have been a bit of a negativity going into this game against Everton, but could be further from the truth. And we've got players coming back as well. We've got players who we're looking forward to coming in. And the big thing is the players who've come in and filled those gaps have risen to the occasion. I think we can finally see Tonali plays better when Bruno's not there. We couldn't win a game without Bruno. Now suddenly Tonali's stepping up and he's the player. He scored 3 goals in the last 3 games. He's starting to show us the old Tonali. So things are changing. Things change all the time with injuries, and Sunderland will have to find that out now, because, as I say, they've been without Xhaka, who's back now, but they've now got 3 players on the injured list. They need players to step up and take a lead now.
Yep, and it's a good point. Ted, I want to talk to you just quickly before we move on to Middlesbrough and their woes. Newcastle's March is, I'm going to put it down as March Madness, mate, because it is absolutely jam-packed now. So we've got Newcastle versus Everton at home. Then they've got Newcastle versus Man United. Then they've got Newcastle Man City in the FA Cup. Then they've got the first leg of Newcastle Barcelona. Then Chelsea away. Then the second leg of Barcelona Newcastle. Then 22nd of March, the derby.
The big game.
In between now and 22 days, we're talking, the 7 games of football. I mean, in such a short space, and obviously Steve was just talking about the injuries and all that sort of stuff. But 7 games, that is an incredible March. I mean, in the space of 22 days, Barcelona, Man City, Chelsea, Man United, and the Northeast Derby. I mean, that's an incredible month for all the Newcastle fans. But
that's what you want. As a football fan, listen, all 3 of our clubs have been through the absolute doldrums in recent times. We've all been there. Thankfully, it looks like Borough are now heading out of that and heading towards the light, as it were. But imagine, that sort of new generation of fans, the young'uns, where they're looking at those fixtures. That's exactly what you want to see at this stage of the season. It's like the absolute biggest names in football, whether you're going away to watch them at the new camp, 50,000 capacity or not, and what an experience to go over there. But then, to have the likes of Man United, to have the likes of City in the Cup, and then the local derby as well. I've said it for the last few months. The Northeast football scene is absolutely bouncing again, and it's great for the area. It's sickening for us to have to watch European football and Newcastle being involved and actually doing very well. I'm just still stotting mad about that second half, Steve, because I had Newcastle to win both halves. And it cost me 30 quid. And to be honest, I knew as soon as I backed Newcastle, I'm convinced word got out. And they just went, hey, he's got 30 quid on this. No, let's switch off. Let's have a rest. But I mean, what a statement to get through. Just one thing I want to ask you, Steve, what's the potential route to the final if you do actually get past Barcelona?
Spurs next, if they can get through, or Sporting Lisbon.
So you're through to the semi.
Well, that'll be the quarterfinal, yeah, and then it's Bodo Glimt or I couldn't remember the other team, but yeah, we could play Arsenal. We could play the Arsenal in the final.
How's Bodo Glimt as well? My goodness, what a result that was as well. Champions League just throwing
incredible.
And it's been incredible. But I mean, Steve, that is a massive March, mate. And I mean, as a Newcastle fan, you must be licking your lips because to play, the Man United, you play both Manchester teams. You've got Barcelona in there as well. And then you finish off March on the 22nd. Sorry, it would be the 21st your time with the Northeast Derby. I mean, you must be licking your lips at those fixtures. I mean, that's what every Newcastle fan wants. Maybe not the players because it's a game every 4 days or 3 days or so. But I just wanted to talk to you quickly as well, Steve. we've seen a few rumors come out this week, especially from a few of the journalists now, not so much social media pundits, but actual journalists coming out and saying about Walter Marta wanting to go back to Germany. Anthony Gordon wanted to go to Liverpool, and this is coming on the back of Tonali also
Free
potentially
swear
wanting
words
out
from
as well.
Steve now.
I mean,
bullshit.
It's just crazy though that it's just crazy that I don't see it with any other club, that these journalists come out and have literally said that 3 of your starters at the moment are seeking moves away. I mean, I think it's just rubbish.
It's called geopolitics, mate. That's what it's called. It's as simple as that. Geopolitics. It doesn't go away, and it hasn't gone away since Newcastle United were taken over by PIF from Saudi Arabia. And there is a group of journalists who deliberately write stories and create a noise around Newcastle because they do not want Newcastle to do well because of the Saudi issue. That is it in a nutshell. And you can name the journalists. I won't, but the journalists are there. You need to go and read who writes those stories. I'm expecting a certain journalist from the BBC to come out and put something out in the next couple of hours. And if they can't unsettle them by linking them to transfers, to try and find out what they're up to in their social life. Hence the story, or a non-story today, about a Newcastle United player going out on a date, a single Newcastle United player going out on a date with a single girl. Who cares where she's from? Who cares what she does? At the end of the day, from our side of things, who cares? Newcastle United Newcastle United fans just want to see that team do well.
Yeah, it is incredible. And obviously social media, like we said, and the chat have agreed, can be a bit of a cesspit at times. And unfortunately, sometimes that's led by journalists as well, as we have seen. But more to come on that, I'm sure. And Newcastle book in for a March Madness. That is incredible. Let's flick on to Middlesbrough, who have had 2 bad draws against 2 teams in the relegation zone to kind of hamper their promotion aspects. Unfortunately, Middlesbrough have been pegged back by Oxford United, who were sitting second last, and then Leicester City, due to points reduction, was sitting third last. It's been a 0-0 draw against Oxford, and now it was a 1-1 draw against Leicester. It's been a little bit disheartening as a Middlesbrough fan sitting in there around that second or first. And unfortunately, now we've seen Coventry open up a gap at the top again. They've got 2 wins on the bounce. They seem to have taken our win, and they've just gone on and leaps and bounds with that. And unfortunately, Middlesbrough haven't been able to continue their form. It seems like Coventry might have broken us a little bit. We had that fantastic win against Sheffield United. And then, as I said, the bad loss to Coventry away, which was always going to be a tough fixture, but then 2 poor performances at home. And I say poor, it was still a draw. You can't win it, don't lose it. And that's what Middlesbrough's attitude was. Now, we did come up against 2 teams that ultimately deployed the low block. They are 2 teams sitting in the relegation zones of the championship, looking for any point they can get out of a team sitting in second in Middlesbrough. But Middlesbrough's more scary thought was not being able to find a way through. And have they written the template or the cheat sheet of how to get around Middlesbrough? Because deploying the low block and attacking us on the counter seemed to work, and we weren't able to compete with it. Middlesbrough have also gotten their selection, I believe, wrong in the past couple of games. We saw Luke Ayling drop for the Oxford United game, where I think he should have played, and then he came back against Leicester City and he had one of the, a really poor performance. And I think, unfortunately, Kim Hellberg's now finding out again. We've had this massive high, and then we had 4 games in a row where we lost, and then we've gone back on this massive high, and it's a big roller coaster. But everything now is worrying Middlesbrough fans, is being dragged back into those playoffs and not being able to get in the first or 2. There is 13 games to go. We've got we don't have as packed March as Newcastle United, but there are a fair few games in March before the international break, and then we will see where we really sit. It's the next couple of games that are going to open up for Middlesbrough, and I don't think we'll have such opposition that is going to sit as defensively as Oxford and Leicester did, as I said, both in the relegation zone, both vying for any point that they can get. But it's going to be a tough old test now for Middlesbrough to see if we can get results against the likes of Birmingham away, QPR away, Charlton and Bristol City. And don't forget Blackburn Rovers, who Middlesbrough fans will be all very familiar with, on the 21st of March away there as well. Teddy boy, I'll come to you, mate. Middlesbrough's dropped, I would say. I'm kind of trying to be fair. Middlesbrough fans and Middlesbrough, lovers are seeing that Middlesbrough, they think Middlesbrough have dropped 6 points here because there's two teams in the relegation zone. We spoke to you about Oxford United. You said how defensively they were going to play, but you still thought we could find a way through. We couldn't, 0-0. We've come against Leicester City. Leicester City are obviously just come out of the Premier League, but they're sitting in the relegation zone due to breaking PSR. They had -6 points taken off them. They look like there's going to get more points taken off them, but there's still a Premier League outfit in terms of the players. I mean, you're talking about Harry Winks, Oliver Skipp, all these types of players, you know, that are bouncing around in the Leicester City ranks. They're not a team short of numbers and you know, an absolute ballers. It just still feels like we have dropped 6 points because we weren't able to turn these draws, 2 games at home against relegation threatened teams, into 6 points. I mean, we saw this again, as I said, with Sunderland last year. You were sitting in that top half. You started to drop points. How was it? How were you feeling at that stage as a Sunderland fan? Were you ever worried? And what advice can you give to Middlesbrough fans who are starting to panic a little bit?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, this one, because I don't think you need to panic in terms of, I think even if you were in the playoffs, I think you'd still go up. And I kind of see that parallel with where we were last season with that. I said if we were in the top 4 by January, February, we'd still get promoted. It was more out of hope, don't get me wrong, but it was proved right. The thing that would concern me as a Borough fan is the fact that you've got teams like Wrexham around you who just continually find a way, not just to win, but to score a shed full of goals. The game against Ipswich, they beat them 5-3.
5-3.
Which, I mean, they're not winning games like that every single week, but they're finding ways to beat some of the top teams around them. And that's a bit of a concern. Having said that, it's blips happen, and yeah, it's time now that because the new manager kind of honeymoon period is over. He's adopting his own tactics, which are very, very very good in most cases. But when you've got teams like Oxford and Leicester, they are fighting for their lives, mate, and they are going to defend. They're going to defend like it's a cup final.
Yeah,
not because it's Middlesbrough or anything like that. It's no disrespect to Middlesbrough in any way, but they are putting their bodies on the line just to try and salvage a point in order to stay in that division. So they become almost trickier games than what the games are against the top sides. Yes, all right. The game against Coventry didn't go the way that everyone hoped. We've already got the Jimmy Hill picture, so we don't need to do that again, Steve, do we? No,
I've run out.
Going to leave it alone.
He's right out. Good.
We've exhausted the internet of Jimmy Hill pictures.
for this week.
For this week, yes. I'm sure there'll be some more dredged up. But mate, listen, Monday's game it's one of those where it's time to make a bit of a statement. And Birmingham are a bit more free-flowing in terms of the type of football they play. It'll actually play into your hands a little bit more. Yes, it is a concern, especially when you've had such a good and consistent start to the season. You're up there, you're still battling away. There's still 13 games left to go, mate, and you're still one of the sides to beat. You've got points on the board, and there's still a pack chasing you. Me, personally, I'd rather have the points on the board, mate, and let them worry about it. Middlesbrough go and do their own thing. Yeah, all right, you're going to come up against sides where the low block is difficult. You look at Arsenal, when they came to the stadium alike, we absolutely frustrated the hell out of them by doing the same sort of thing. The best teams in the world can't always deal with a low block, and that's just the way football is. It's a very, very clever and difficult thing to try and manoeuvre around. So, listen, you go away to Birmingham, who are one of the favourites as well. I mean, I do like Jay Stansfield as well. I think he's an absolutely cracking striker. So yeah, they've got some danger men there. They've spent a bit of money. Paddy Roberts also played for Sunderland and Borough, who's I'm sure will be relishing the game as well. He loves the game. He seems to have picked up form. Yeah, he seems to have picked up form again, which I'm pleased for the lad. He's a quality player, but Middlesbrough also have quality about them as well, mate. So I think I've just got a sneaky suspicion it'll be a statement win on Monday night for you. Yeah, fingers crossed. Steve, obviously, just looking back before we look forward, mate, Middlesbrough fans starting to get a little bit worried. I mean, there's been obviously a lot of talk between social media, fan forums and all that sort of stuff, even reporters
coming out yesterday and questioning Kim Hellberg and his tactics. I mean, we're talking about a team that's sitting in second, and all of a sudden we've had a loss to Coventry and 2 draws to 2 teams in the relegation zone, and people are starting to get a little bit irky and a little bit questionable, and starting to talk about player performances and stuff like that. I mean, you've been around for a lot longer than most in the football scene, mate. What advice can you give to Middlesbrough fans at this stage of the season who are still sitting in second, looking to get out of the championship after being there since 2016-17? For me, it's just nerves. It's nerves that Middlesbrough are going to become that typical Borough that we all talk about or worry about, or every good fan worries about, that you see a great position that you've gotten yourself into, lost. But it is the nature of football, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Well, of course it is. From a football fan's perspective, things have changed. You've got social media, you've got, podcasts and the like, and that's the problem. There's too many people can have their say, and, depending on who you listen to and what you listen to, your mind can change. But, you should judge, Middlesbrough and what they do and where they finish at the end of the season. That's what you should do. And for now, you should do what supporters are supposed to do, and that's support your team. And, it's as you say, your second place. It could have been worse. The likes of Millwall and Ipswich could have, gained massively on you. They could have overtaken you. You could have been sitting in 4th or 5th. But let's face it, at the start of the season, with all the transition that Middlesbrough, have now gone through over the course of the last 12 calendar months, to be sitting second place isn't a big disaster. In fact, it's a huge success, and you've got massive opportunity to get back into the Premier League automatically. If you don't, you've got a massive opportunity to open that gap and make sure that you're in the playoffs, and that's what Sunderland did last season. And the message to Borough fans is simple, isn't it? Really, it's keep calm and carry on. So that's what you've got to do.
Yep. No, completely agree, and I think that is very, very good words of wisdom, and I think that goes out to every Borough fan. Just let's hold our horses. We're still sitting in second in the championship, and we've got a long way to go. There's still 13 games which can fluctuate both downwards and upwards. So we've also got obviously results to go our way or against us in they're out of our control as well. So let's sit back and enjoy the ride, especially under Kim Hellberg. Well, we've come to the halfway point here on Three's a Crowd, and that means it is time for everyone's favorite. Sit back, relax, have a laugh. It's time for Troll of the Week.
Breaking news out of Sunderland. Sunderland couple to divorce. They say they will still remain brother and sister.
Oh, good on them. Keep it in the family.
Finally, clothes for drunk people, lads. Fantastic, that. I love this as well. This was pinged onto a scoreboard. A happy 23rd birthday to my amazing brother, Droopy Cock. Very good. Love it when people get away with things like that. Here's our mate, the Ipswich fan, out and about again. I love it. Oh, wow. Brilliant, that, isn't it? Brilliant. So this shirt on the right-hand side, Rice, baby. Dear God. Dear God.
Love that.
The Man United fan, 5 wins in a row, time for a trim. Man City are just getting so good at trolling. They then decided to have a haircut in their own dressing room.
Well, if anybody needed one.
Yeah. And I love this photograph. Dan Burn doing what Dan Burn does with Haaland. It got a bit of respect from Haaland as well. Another day at the office. Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday played each other this week. Of course, Sheffield Wednesday relegated. And programs were on sale at the Sheffield United. They're maybe you could do with a bit of spelling. Programs $3.50 or 2 for £7. Cash only. Dear God. And Sheffield Wednesday relegated to League One. And that smile, it says it all. We do like a Stone Island badge on here. This one was on Get the Badge In. When you've got Spurs away at 4 and the Mosque at 6. And meanwhile, in Brazil, on Sunday, following the match against Marcoense, Derrickson proposed to his girlfriend, and she accepted. On Wednesday, she announced via Instagram that the relationship had ended. I wonder what happened.
Oh my God.
And there's no doubt that Nottingham Forest physio 100% had tickets for Oasis's reunion. And in Istanbul Amateur League match, goalkeeper Mohamed Yukang, powerful clearance, accidentally struck a low-flying seagull, knocking it unconscious onto the pitch. Captain Garni Katan immediately performed CPR on the bird with chest compressions. After a few moments, the seagull revived and was given water and taken to the sidelines for care. What a great story.
Wow. What a good story.
And was that game played in Sunderland, I wonder? Anyway, Piers Morgan, memo to the pathetic little turd of a Spurs fan who did this to Declan Rice on Sunday. You'll need to find a Watford player's girlfriend for your North London derby next season. And championship again for you soon, says Jack on. Oh yeah, 3 p.m. kickoffs, cheap booze, ground filled with non-plastics and no VAR. How on earth will we survive? Spurs are so shit, even the bloke in the wheelchair's walked out. And Bodo Glimt have a weekly wage bill, lads, of €140,000. It's 7.3 million euros a year. The market value of their squad is €57 million. They've beaten City, Athletic, and Inter twice in their past 4 Champions League games. 2 of those at the Metropolitano and San Siro. It is a very good story in football.
Not wrong.
And you know, my brother used to play with the under-15s, says Princess Anne. New Carry On film in the franchise. Carry On, Mount My Baton, a saucy British comedy. Oh, no. And we asked 100 people to name something you get on your birthday. You said arrested. And seen in Lincoln, full body massage, including head, only £30. 01902 843
be a happy ending.
Couple of jokes as well, lads. I haven't had one of these for a while. Sex over 40 can be exciting. You never know whether it's an orgasm, a stroke, or just cramp. And a man asked a fairy to make him desirable and irresistible to all women. She turned him into a credit card. And there were 3 sisters, Anne, Jan, and Fanny. Anne and Jan went on a double date. The date said, "Wow, you 2 have big feet." Anne said, "You should see our fannies. They're massive." And we'll finish up with some animals. Hang on, how long is that cow? And when men over 30 seems to look younger. And great news, lads. This poor woman relied on a dog to find an item that she'd lost. Yes, there we go.
Jesus Christ.
I'll let that sink in.
Oh, God.
That's what she said.
Lube.
That's it. You've got any tweets?
Taking off air.
Send it to us, nufcmatters8092@gmail.com, or send it to the lads on social media so we can get what catted.
Welcome on back to Three's a Crowd. That is Troll of the Week. It is a good barrel of laughs, and we thank each and every one of you for sending that in. Welcome to the only Northeast football podcast where we bring Sunderland, Middlesbrough, and Newcastle together for a bit of banter and a bit of laugh. We've looked backwards at the results that have happened over the week, all the big news stories. We've had a lot of swearing from Steve. We've had a lot of cheering up from Teddy Boy, and we've had Middlesbrough fans. We've got the keywords out, keep calm and carry on. And we now need to look forward because it is a massive, massive fixtures coming up for both Newcastle, Sunderland, and Middlesbrough, obviously included in that as well. Let's look forward to Newcastle versus Everton. It is going to be today, I do believe. And it's going to be an incredible game because it is Newcastle at home versus Everton. I would say, Steve, as we come to you for this one, mate, that in the likelihood of March, now no game is given, but this seems to be one of the easiest games in March for you. I mean, after this, you've got Man United, Man City, Barcelona, Chelsea, and then the derby. Now, we all know what it's like with the Newcastle-Sunderland derby. We can't write that on, but Newcastle versus Everton seems quite calm in the midst of all those fixtures.
Toughest game for me this week, I think, because we always do quite well against Man United at home, and I think we'll be well up for Man City. This is the game. This is the game I'm more concerned about, and it's because of their away record. They beat us at St James's Park last season, albeit we were playing with 10 men because Isaac had already decided he was going to pack in and not play. But yeah, this is a tricky fixture. We need to negotiate it properly. I think they've managed to string 5 Premier League away games without defeat. They've drawn at Burnley, they've won at Forest, they've won at Villa, they've drawn at Brighton, they've won at Fulham. They got beat 2-0 at Chelsea, but then before that, they had another little sequence of away games where they drew at Sunderland, they won at Man United, and they won at Bournemouth. So they're no mugs on the road. They're defensively strong, and we're going to need to find a way past them. A lot of Newcastle's goals have been coming from set pieces recently. So, we need to find a plan B if the set pieces don't work. But yeah, this is tough. They're missing Jack Grealish and Charlie Alcaraz. Newcastle, of course, have got their own injury absentees. We are still missing Bruno, Fabian Shaw, Tino Livramento, and Lewis Miley. The Lewis Miley one's quite concerning because Eddie Howe did say yesterday that he was relying on another injection, and potentially that had he not had these injections, his season could have been over this year. So that's a concern. Malik Chow is back. He's available after his 1-match Champions League suspension, and Jacob Ramsey, who missed the Qarabag game due to a slight hamstring issue, is back in training and should be okay for today. Incidentally, Sandro Tonali's 1 game away from completing 100 appearances for Newcastle, so he will certainly start today, one would imagine. But yeah, look, I think this is the toughest game of the lot that we've got this week. But I think we can overcome it. I think Newcastle will find a way to win. I think they will. They will rotate again, of course, and there will be players back in today. I noticed that Shahar was playing last night for the under-21s, so I don't expect him to be involved. But there was no place for Alex Murphy last night, so I think he'll retain his place in the squad today. But I think we'll see Nick Pope back in goal. I think certainly Malik Chow will be back in defence. And I think that Kieran Trippier will still have to perform at right back. It's the big decision is what he does up front, and I think he'll go back to Gordon going through the middle. I think we'll see Voltemada on the bench. I think we might see Barnes, Gordon, and Elanga start today. But it's a Saturday kick-off. It's 3:00, non-televised. And bearing in mind as well, we did go to the Hill Dickinson in November and pull off probably one of our best away performances of the season, winning 4-1. So Newcastle are aiming for their second Premier League double of the season. First one was over Burnley, of course. But yeah, I'm going to go for Newcastle United to win this game 2-1.
Ooh, Teddy boy, Newcastle versus Everton. Obviously, Steve's a little bit worried about this one. I sort of looked at it as one of the easier games in the month that they've got coming up, but it is obviously a tricky outfit in Everton. And I mean, we all know that David Moyes doesn't lie over, and doesn't take an easy Everton squad to any game. And it's going to be a tricky afternoon for Newcastle versus Everton.
Yeah, I think Steve's nailed it there. I think defensively they've surprised everybody with how well they've done this season, Everton. Tarkowski in particular, I think, has had an absolutely brilliant season, and he's the wrong side of 30 to be considered for an England role for the World Cup. But I really think he's been one of the better defensive performers in the Premier League this season. So that helps kind of negate that effect where Newcastle have been so good from set pieces. You have got outstanding defenders like him who can get a hold of people and really, keep people out. Having said that, I think the confidence going from scoring so many goals as what they did against Qarabag, I thought it was a good performance against Man City despite the result for the Geordies. I think they're growing in confidence a little bit, and to be honest, I don't think it's going to be a convincing win, but I can just see the Geordies squeezing past them. Maybe a 1-0. Voltemada, I don't know. For me, that's not working for me, Steve. The where he's got him at the minute, I think it almost feels like it's kind of knocked Voldemort in terms of I don't know what kind of player I am anymore. I watched that second half, and he's trying shots from distance a little bit. He looked up his game, and I think they need to stop messing the lad around a little bit and give him the role. For me, he should be right behind a striker. And I mean, not as a number 10, but like as a almost like as a target man kind of striker, like what Niall Quinn used to be for Kevin Phillips. That's what I would see him as. Quinny was deceptively good with his feet as well, and Voldemort has got wonderful technique for such a big fella. I just think that's the best position for him. That midfield thing is kind of like they've just done another Joe Linton. All right, that worked with Joe Linton by putting him in midfield, but you can't do that every time you spend 70 million quid on a striker.
It's a lack of training. That's what Eddie said. They're not getting any time to train. He's not had any time.
Games are thick and fast, mate. I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree, mate. It's
not going to get any time in the summer either because he's going to be playing for Germany in the World Cup.
That's it. Well, they'll be home after the group stage anyway, mate. They'll have loads of time.
Shout out to all our Germans.
Yes. Guten Tag. Party, instead. I think we've completely lost the thread here. No, I'm going to go for a Newcastle win. I'm going to go for a squeaky one. I'm sure Jordan Pickford will be upset with me for this one, so I am going to go Newcastle 1, Everton 0 for my prediction.
It's going to be very interesting, and I know for very, very sure that Jordan Pickford's going to be up for this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this one. I just think, obviously, both teams looking to add the bigger months ahead, and I think it's just going to be, this one's just going to be interesting, and then obviously Newcastle get right into the thick of it with Man United midweek as well. We'll look at that one very soon. We have got another fixture today. It is Sunderland in the earlier kickoff against Bournemouth. They have travelled all the way down to Bournemouth for the early kickoff, and a fantastic fixture and a fantastic management there by the Premier League to organise Sunderland fans having to travel early down to Bournemouth. We appreciate that up here in the northeast. I tell you that, and I said yes, because I count myself. The problem, Teddy boy, obviously, is that Sunderland are looking for a big 3 points here. They've had a loss to Arsenal. They've had the loss to Fulham, which, at home, I think was a poor one. And then obviously the loss to Liverpool. So it's 3 losses now on the bounce in the Premier League. Now it doesn't get any easier, travelling all the way down to Bournemouth, mate, looking for 3 points. The best thing, I think, is that Xhaka should be available, fit to play. But you have got, as we said at the start of the show, 3 other injury concerns to worry about. Talk to us about Sunderland taking on Bournemouth in the early kickoff.
Yeah, so obviously, the starting lineup's going to change right away. I would fully expect Xhaka to start. He looked very effective when he came on for the last sort of 20 minutes or so against Fulham. We need him. We need that talisman. We need somebody of that kind of character and stature in the middle of the park when you're going somewhere difficult like Bournemouth. Bertrand Traore is also back in the squad as well. Apparently, he's tipped to start on the wing. He's been a massive miss as well. After AFCON, he had the problem with his knee injury. He had to have a little bit of surgery on that. He's come back stronger, and he's the sort of player who's the creative type who can unlock defenses for us. Now, the interesting thing about today is we're going with either Mayenda or Isidore up front. Isidore's one of these who likes to run in from behind. Totally different kind of striker to what Robbie is. I think that personally helps us. I really do. I think we're going to have to play a different way to what we normally do. In the other aspect, if we're going to look at Mayenda starting, he can hold the ball up, but he's more one of those who does it with his feet. He's not one of these who's going to sort of back into defenders like what Robbie's so effective at. So yeah, it's going to be as you were in terms of where we were when we started the season and playing that kind of style. I think we'll go low block. Bearing in mind, though, we're missing Reinildo at the back. We're missing, obviously, a whole host of defenders, to be honest. Dennis Serkin, who would be normally the second choice left back. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't think we'll see Dennis Serkin again. His contract's up at the end of the season. He's too injury prone. He's had that cast on his hand longer than Keith Lemon. It's I don't know what's going on there. Mukiele, obviously calf injury, so it's a makeshift defence. But you've got the likes of Gertrude who can come in and do a job there. You're only talking a couple of weeks ago where Liverpool were trying to oust him off us, so you can tell how highly regarded he is as a player. Dan Ballard, obviously, having a fantastic season. We're going to be very lucky to hold on to him by the end of the season. So, for all those changes to the squad, this is where opportunities arise. It's not a foregone thing. It's going to be a ridiculously difficult game. Tom, I would give Isidore a chance today, mate. It's his sort of game. Running in from behind in the way he does. He times his runs really well. He drifts out wide, comes in like what he did a couple of times against Borough last season. Sorry, Rye. That's his trademark, is being able to do that. I think Isidore's perfect for today, but he's got to take his chances. Earlier on the season, he had too many good golden chances that he just didn't put away. He needs a goal, and that'll do his confidence the world of good. He's that sort of player. If he gets one, he'll get a hatful. Not a foregone conclusion. My head says a defeat, but my heart says I think we might just snatch a draw out of this one today. So I'm hopefully I'm going to go for a ones each.
Oh, very interesting. Steve, Bournemouth obviously taking on Sunderland away. Sunderland finding themselves needing a big 3 points.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really tough game for Sunderland, especially with the injuries, and Bournemouth will take advantage today. They're a really good team. And, credit to them for losing Semenyo in the transfer window. And you would think that both Semenyo, it's like there's been no difference. In fact, they've got better without them. And they just seem to be in that kind of, Brighton kind of mold where they're just bringing in players. And it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, I can't see Sunderland getting anything today. I'm going to go for a Bournemouth win. I'm going to say 3-1.
Wow. I was actually going to go for Sunderland, but then Ted stuck in the Mundell cheeky comment about the Borough, and now I'm going for Bournemouth 3-0 as well. I think it's going to be a tough old class. The only thing that I think is it's just such a long way, and obviously Sunderland having the early kickoff as well. As I said, I honestly think Bournemouth have gotten better.
Last night on coaches, man, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And not only that, I mean, you got the fans having to travel so far, but I completely agree with you, Steve. I think Bournemouth have somehow gotten better. We have got to look at Middlesbrough, and then we've got two other games to talk about, with Middlesbrough, only playing on the Monday, but the Newcastle and Sunderland have midweek fixtures. We will look at them, but let's get Middlesbrough out the way. They play Birmingham on Monday night, and it's a tough old task for Middlesbrough because Birmingham are looking to bounce back from a bad loss to Millwall, but Birmingham are on the cusp of trying to make it back to the playoffs. They obviously came up from League One. They've got the Tom Brady money, the American investors, which everyone loves. And as Teddy Boy said, they got a Patrick Roberts who loves playing against the Borough for some reason. He always seems to rock up. Middlesbrough are looking to get 3 points here, no doubt about it. They will be coming up against a team that's not going to deploy the low block. They'll be looking at a team that's going to try to open us up and have a little bit of attacking threat, rather than the Leicester and Oxford performances where we saw two teams defending for their life, like Teddy Boy said, just trying to get anything out of the game. And if you can get a point to get out of the relegation. Well, Birmingham are pushing and they need to score. They need to take 3 points as well, because they need to close down the gap between them and Wrexham to get into that sixth spot in the playoffs. That is exactly what will be on their mind. I'm looking for a more entertaining game here from both teams looking to attack, both teams looking for 3 points here. I'm going to go for Middlesbrough to sneak this in a 2-0 win. We've always played well against Birmingham. We saw it with Adi Vavesh in his first game in charge after the snake. The rat left us for Wolves. It was Birmingham that we had, and we were able to turn them over at the Riverside. I look to this one again and Middlesbrough to turn them over again. Teddy Boy, Birmingham taking on Middlesbrough. It's going to be at St Andrews, obviously. You do like Jay Stansfield, mate. How do you see this one playing out?
I'll tell you how much I'm looking forward to this game. I'm actually going to get in from work. I'm going to have my tea. I'm going to have a nap. And I'm going to get up to watch your game. Because it doesn't start at 10 o'clock for me, mate. I'm really looking forward. I think it's going to be one of the best games of the Championship this season. I really do. I think we're in for an absolute rip snorter of a Monday night football, mate. I think there's goals in this. I said before, and I haven't changed my mind, I think it'll be a statement win for Middlesbrough. I think it gets the promotion push back on track. I'm going for a tasty 3-2 win to the Borough.
Ooh, Steve, obviously
Yeah.
Middlesbrough
You have your corner flag back.
Middlesbrough need 3 points here to try and keep the gap between them and Coventry at a minimum. They're also looking to bounce back from 2 boring old draws that they've seen. Look, 2 teams that are going to be looking to open each up. I think it's got an entertaining fixture written all over it.
Yeah, I think it'll be entertaining. I think it'll be a big, one of the biggest matches in the Championship this week. So I'm going to go for 2-2. I do think it'll be a draw, but I think it'll be, that'll be seen as an important point on the road.
Yeah, no, it's going to be very interesting, and Middlesbrough will be looking to bounce back. It'll be interesting to see Borough fans what lineup Kim Hellberg goes with. Does he stick with Luke Ayling after that performance? Does he go back to Dale Fry? Time will tell, and we have got to wait till Monday night for that. And Middlesbrough fans, hold on. We're getting there. Don't you worry. Still sitting in second. Let's look at the week ahead because there are some other fixtures to talk about. Sunderland and Newcastle both play by the time we come back here on Three's a Crowd next weekend. So we've got to look at those games. Let's go to the earlier one, which is Leeds United versus Sunderland. Teddy boy, this is very interesting for me because I think if there is a loss today, like we've predicted, Steve and I have predicted against Bournemouth, then it becomes ultimately a massive game against Leeds United because it's Leeds United are bouncing around just above that relegation zone. You don't want to be dragged into that, but thankfully West Ham and Tottenham are doing their best to leave you guys out of it. Leeds United are out of it, but not by far. So this one becomes a little bit more interesting. Leeds United have been battered and bruising teams this season. They've played a very interesting style of football, I would say. And I'm looking forward to this one, mate, more than I am looking forward to the Bournemouth one, funny enough. How do you see yourselves lining up against Leeds United midweek after Bournemouth today?
It's less like football and more like common assault with Leeds, isn't it? But there you go.
It is, yeah.
I hate them. Honestly, they're just another team they're basically Yorkshire West Ham, aren't they? They absolutely think they're the mutt's nuts. They're just not. They've got one song. They haven't won anything for years. I'd love to go there and just shut their fans up, to be honest. I really would. And if you're watching and you're a Leeds fan, I don't care. You're not even a big club anymore. It's just learn another song. We're not marching on together. You're marching on down the door queue, mate. Anyway, having said all that, let's have a repeat of 1973. I'm going for a 1-0 win for Sunderland, actually, against Leeds. I think our quality will come back, mate. Isidore likes playing against Leeds as well. He's had a couple of goals against them. With Xhaka back in and, things start to gel again. Whatever happens against Bournemouth happens, but I say we'll go to away to Leeds, and I think we'll pick up 3 points.
I think it's going to. I'm going for an entertaining draw here, 2-2. I think Leeds United and Sunderland will both be looking to take points on that game, crucial to their Premier League.
Tom Dixon. Tom, what's going on, mate? Normally we get on all right.
If you can't see the replay, Tom in the chat has gone for a 2-1 victory to Leeds United. He's all over Ted today, and we absolutely love it. Steve, Leeds United taking on Sunderland away from home, mate. It's always tantalising because Leeds aren't that far away from the northeast. But they're both teams that are looking to stay in the Premier League, and Leeds are biting and fighting and punching their way through.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult to predict scores when you haven't played a game beforehand. A lot depends on what happens this weekend. Sunderland, as we know, go to Bournemouth. Leeds are at home to Man City, and you would imagine that Man City, who are marching on towards the Championship, the Premiership title, will win that game. And if they do, more emphasis is on winning against Sunderland. And, that's the thing. And if Sunderland lose at Bournemouth, Sunderland are going to want to bounce back against Leeds and stop the rot. So I think it all points to a draw against Leeds midweek. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think both teams will concede goals this weekend, but I think they'll both want to tighten their defences at the weekend, at midweek. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
It's going to be very, very interesting, that's for sure. And it's going to be, by the time we come back next week, lads, we're going to be looking at, only minimal games left. Obviously, March, April, and May to come. And it's starting to get into that itty-gritty part, isn't it, where we're going to see these teams either coming Yeah, it's going to get, and before we knew it, lads, we're already in March. I cannot believe it, how quickly it's gone. We've got another game quickly to talk about before we wrap things up here on Three's a Crowd. It is Newcastle United at home to Man United, a tasty midweek fixture. This one, Newcastle obviously coming off today's game with Everton for another home game, 2 back-to-back home games, Everton first, and then obviously Man United midweek before they have the FA Cup game against Man City, 2 Manchester teams in a week. It's going to be very, very interesting. Steve, quickly over to you, mate, for the Newcastle Man United midweek fixture. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I always feel more confident playing Manchester United at home. We've had some great results over Manchester United in the last 20 odd years when we've played them. I don't expect that to be any different. Michael Carrick has had a good start. To his Manchester United career. But we know that, these kind of bounces don't last forever. Michael Carrick hasn't suddenly transformed into Alex Ferguson overnight. And I think Newcastle will have too much for Manchester United midweek. So, yeah, I think the phrase I hate, of course, under the lights, I think the crowd will be well up for this one. They will be well up on the grass. We'll be well up for this one. I am going to go for Newcastle to win by 3 clear goals. So I'm going to go Newcastle United 3, Manchester United 0.
I feel like I'm sitting on the fence, but I've got 2-2 on this one. I just think Michael Carrick, for some reason, as much as he irks me, as much as he upsets me, he seems to have Man United. It seems to be fitting so well there, Teddy boy, for some reason. I think we all said this, that Michael Carrick is a good manager. Maybe it won't work out at Middlesbrough, but it will work out somewhere. And that seems to have clicked for him at Man United. How do you see Newcastle United hosting Man United in midweek?
Some managers just work better at other clubs, mate. It's
one
of those things. We've said this before. I actually see this as quite a close game. Man United have turned a corner this season. There's no doubt about that. Sesko looks as if he's really starting to hit some form now as well. Took his goal extremely well against Everton, I thought. I can see this being a bit closer than what Steve's going. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go with you on this one, Ryan. I'm going to go with the Desmond Tutu.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. And as we just said, it's going to bring in a massive, massive March. Ladies and gentlemen, can you believe it? March is already here. Today, we have the last days of February, and then we're into March. Obviously, for me, I'm already in March. I tell you, I'm well ahead. I tell you, the future is looking very, very good for a certain team in red in the championship. That's from the future, Back to the Future, that is. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is all we got time for this week on Three's a Crowd. We have looked backwards. We have looked forwards. We have gotten everyone's thoughts. We have gotten everyone's laughs and banters. We've had Troll of the Week, and it's time to wrap things up. We will come back next week, and we'll look back at the results that we have predicted. Were we close or were we far from it? And then we have, as Ted put it, squeaky bum time as we bring in the end of this season into a World Cup in America as well. Can you believe it? It's not going to be shy of football over the next couple of months. And Newcastle fans, dare to dream. It is a massive month of March coming up. Sunderland fans looking to bounce back in the Premier League. Good luck to you today at Bournemouth. Those who have already made the journey had a safe and joyous journey, I hope, and have a safe and joyous journey back. Newcastle fans, enjoy your 2 home fixtures. Not far to go for you in Everton and Man United. And Middlesbrough fans off to Birmingham on a Monday night. Enjoy it, believe, keep calm, and carry on. What will be, will be. We thank you so much for joining us. We thank you so much for watching us live. Thank you for the likes, comments, and subscribes. We will see you all right here on Three's a Crowd next weekend. It is bye for now.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat. It's a promise.